Do something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
What the is that, dude?
G'day, folks. How you going? Hope your day's doing all right. Oops, I've got something up here somewhere I shouldn't have. There we go. We know we're going to wear on Project Matilda, at least. That's a good start. How you guys doing? Had a hell of an afternoon. We lost a friend today. I hadn't known him very long, but we were very good friends. And I loved him very much. He was very loved. His name was Achilles. And there's him fighting with his brother Kobe. Achilles is a Malamute. He is Cass's Malamute. And unfortunately, this afternoon, after what has been a reasonable illness, he had to be put down. And we buried him this afternoon as well. He was a very good dog. Hey, Vince.
Hey, mate, I might just take over for a second, let you compose yourself, mate. He was a beautiful dog. I must admit, I saw him when I was up there in Queensland. Loving as, excellent dog. I mean, even at his age and with his bad hips and stuff, he was still deciding to go chasing animals down the bottom of the area down there. And then, of course, there was the massive climb back up the hill, which was great and tuckering, but never mind.
Oh, yeah. He's lived his best life while he's been here. That's
indeed he has. He was beautiful, beautiful dog. Very, very friendly. You know, all the fun.
Yeah,
Anyway.
just a absolute stunner of a hound. So, and you know me and animals. I mean, this is Caramello, who's on the property. This is Barry. He's Barry the Beardy.
I never saw Barry.
Oh, well, when you were here, it was cold for Barry, but Barry's out now. So,
Barry's out now.
Yeah, he got woken up the other day by a chainsaw out in the woodpile, and he still hung around. So, and he's very friendly. Came up, didn't mind a cuddle at all, and is still hanging around. In fact, I saw him again this morning. So yeah, he's quite good. We did put him back into the woodpile, just so you can see.
If you're not careful, he may decide to come into the bus and sleep with you.
I'm more worried about snakes doing that, to be honest. I don't mind the idea of a bearded dragon being in here. I don't even mind the idea of a python being in here, but they're, well, for those watching this week, you've probably seen a short on the carpet python that we came up with at some stage during the week. Since then, I've seen red belly black and what I suspect was an eastern brown. But they were just going about their business, doing their things. So moving from place A to place B, looking for either a female or a feed, one of the two. And there's a bit of food around on the property at the moment. So a lot of baby things floating around, including a whole heap of baby plovers, which I'm sure many people won't be too overjoyed to hear about, but getting quite a group of baby plovers around. So, yeah, very interesting. So, yeah, it's been, consequently, the day has sort of got away from me a little bit today. It's been, well, just had a lot of stuff we had to organise. So, it's just been a day where I haven't been able to get a lot done. So tonight's show may or may not be all it was cracked up to be. I can tell you that we will discover whether or not I am the first transvestite. Pardon me, the first transvestite on Australian commercial radio. I can't think that I haven't been able to find anybody else, and there is actual evidence of this of me. And in fact, I did know that this picture did exist at some stage in my life, but it only returned to me yesterday from Germany, of all places.
Germany.
That was something a radio station did to me, I want to say in the year 2000. I was working at Triple M in Adelaide, and the program manager there came up with this bright idea that they'd put me on the night show. I was doing all their voiceovers at the time, their promos and all that sort of stuff, and my best mate was making all that stuff in production. I was living in Adelaide. We were living a halcyon lifestyle, I can tell you. Great time. And Phil came up with this idea that we should have a nighttime radio announcer called Suzanne, the music director, who had a voice as deep as mine. And I failed to see the logic. I was just like, what do I tell people when they ring in and they say, why have you got a voice that deep? It's all right. You just tell them that, it's music director. You smoke cigarettes all day, lots of them, and you drink bourbon. And that's how you wind up with a voice like this, which isn't too far from the truth at the end of the day. So there was a whole campaign that had me as Suzanne, the music director, doing the night show. I think it was called Ripper Requests from memory. And the Ripper part was a play on do you remember Ripper 75, Vince?
Yeah. Yep.
The rather cheeky album cover. So I think
yes. I remember that. Good grief.
Yeah. There'll be a lot of people right now who are thinking about the K-Tel record selector as well.
Mate, you're trying to stretch my memory there, I tell you. It was around that time.
Well back into the mid-70s. I haven't been into the chat. Anybody know what album cover that Suzanne, the music director, piece of artwork is a rip-off from?
No.
Anybody at all? I better go down the bottom so I can see. Great album. It was a great album. You're right about that, Scotty. But what was it called? What was the original album's? Oh, well, there you go. George got it. Sorry. I didn't look up fast enough. Supertramp, Breakfast in America. Breakfast in America was the album. So that goes to show that nothing is ever lost off the interwebs, because that that image is 24 years old. Easy 24 years old.
Mate, so you were starting a trend.
And sent to me from Germany.
Yeah, but you're the culprit that started the trend.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
At least your music manager was, anyway, yeah.
I've got to say, it wasn't a trend that kicked off at the time, and that may have been because Suzanne, the music director, didn't spec with a list and, didn't shuffle around. Pardon me. Suzanne, the music director, did platform, net stockings, mini skirts, leather jacket, and wig, and hang out at truck stops when I was paid appropriately by the radio station to do so. It's not something I did in my own personal time. I just want to point that out.
I literally cannot imagine that. I can't imagine you being set up like that. But yeah, okay. No worries.
Oh, well, young, stupid, do anything for money. I mean, I was working at Triple M, mate. I was working at Triple M. It was great.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, at that time, Triple M in Adelaide, the radio network that was part of, the old stereo network, we were the format breakers, if you like. So we would test new radio formats on the Triple M station in Adelaide and see how they rated and whether or not they could be rolled out. Many people today will have heard promotions on their radio station like High School Reunion, where you get everybody back together. Your radio station rings people up from 20 years ago and you have a big party one weekend. Well, that all started with us at Triple M in Adelaide. We were the first to roll it out. And it's what they call a great cume builder for surveys. And you can make them as big as 10 dancing bears. I mean, we had a flood of people, a team of people working the phones to find people who'd been to school, one particular school in Adelaide, and half of them had moved overseas. So we were contacting them overseas, and we got some of them back from overseas for this reunion. Jim Keys and the Masters Apprentices played that night. They were the band that came and played. So yeah, it was a very, very fun period to be working in the radio game, because we got to try anything and everything in that market, and if it worked, then it would be rolled out around Australia. Many people would have heard of the lie detector. I think Kyle Sandlin screwed that up for Oz Stereo, but we actually ran the lie detector in Adelaide first, and very successfully for a couple of years, and then formatted it in a way that it could be rolled out around the network. And I, in fact, trekked around the countryside with the guy doing the lie detecting, the lie detector operator, for a long time. So I was the producer, if you like. So yeah, it was a great creative time to be in radio. Not at all like today, sadly.
All right. So I have a question for you. When did you leave Adelaide? That put his thinking cap on.
I went to Adelaide. I was working at Double TFM in the late 90s, and I want to say 1999. And the breakfast show there was a shit breakfast show. I wasn't on it. I was just backstage audio producer for it. And it wasn't what I'd call the most joyous experience of my life working there. But I went to Adelaide because my best mate had moved from the Gold Coast to Adelaide to take up production manager's job at Triple M, and I hadn't seen him in 6 months. It was only a sort of 5 or 6 hour drive or whatever it was over to Adelaide. So I went over and saw him, spent a weekend there, about 3 days, probably spent most of it drunk, if I'm honest, and had a ball. Really loved the town, and really loved the feel for it. Really felt a draw to go back to Adelaide. So I started experimenting with the idea of setting up my voiceover business in Adelaide. And there was a guy, a very famous man in the radio, TV, advertising industry, who had a studio in Adelaide, and he was renting a portion of it out. His name was Street Remley, and I went and hired the other half of Street Remley Studios for a little while, which got me going in Adelaide, and then picked up another bit of voice work around the place. So I wound up staying there through 2000. I want to say it was 2003 or 4 before I actually left. But Adelaide became a base for me with voiceovers. So I would drive to Melbourne and do a couple of weeks over there, and then maybe drive to Sydney and do a week there, or fly to Sydney and then fly to Brisbane and do a week in each place, and then wind up back in Adelaide for a few days. So that all ended when I moved up to Bundaberg. I got a phone call from an old radio station manager of mine who must have read the tea leaves or something that morning, because where I was working, I was very unhappy with at the time. Oh, that's right. Well, yeah, I'd left Adelaide to go to Ballarat, the coldest hole on the earth. And I was very unhappy there. A mate rang and said, got a job in Bundaberg. Do you want to do breakfast in Bundy? And I said, yep, absolutely. So a week later, I was out of Ballarat and doing breakfast in Bundaberg. So, yeah, I was in Adelaide about 4 years, 3-4 years.
Okay, no worries. I saw something from Silver Fox there about a text. Was that a text/email type thing? Something popped into my mailbox a little bit earlier to do with crypto. Just say yes or no if that's the case, and I'll know whether I can say yes or no. Speaking of
George, nothing's happened to Cass. Just her dog had to be put down today, Achilles. Yeah, so all good. Cass is still with us. Don't need to worry about that. But obviously, it's a sad time around here at the moment. So, yeah. Scott,
Actually, I think I'm.
man, you would have heard me. You would have heard me on air, depending on what. Well, it really didn't matter what radio station you were listening to in Sydney decades ago. You probably would have heard me on a lot of them. I used to do commercials for Mix. I used to do commercials for 2Day FM and Triple M, 2WS, and agency stuff. So stuff that would just turn up on your television or your radio that wasn't necessarily done inside a radio station, but was done for an ad agency and done through one of their studios. Like Street Remley's was one of those sorts of studios. Mount Gambier was cold. No, Deb, I grew up, went to school in Hamilton. All right. I used to try and sell advertising in Mount Gambier. Do the Gazzards still own the car dealership over there?
For a long period
Mount
of time.
Gambier can get old. Yeah, they did for a long time. Peter Gazzard, he sold me a car once and promised to take me for driving his race car. That never materialised either.
I went to school with Peter Gazzard.
Oh, did you really?
In fact, he lived right down the bottom of the street, Strangway Street. He was at the bottom and I was at the top. So,
there you go.
Yeah, I knew the Gazzards quite well. And he was one hell of a motorbike rider.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
yeah.
He was a pretty good all-rounder.
Small world, right? Small world.
Small world. But Ballarat, there isn't a way to get into Ballarat without driving down into it. And it gets cold. I mean, I have been 20 kilometers out of Ballarat in 25 or 30 degree heat and get into Ballarat and it's 12 and raining. And I've been the other way where it might be 25 and raining on the outskirts. You get into town and it's 42 and the bitumen is melting. It's ridiculous. But a lot of beautiful people live in Ballarat. A lot of lovely people, all sitting on gold. I don't know how you folks aren't digging up your backyards. Probably because you're not allowed to anymore. But yeah, that's why I've never lived in the gold area, because I reckon I'd be one of those people who'd just be digging up the backyard. And then offering the neighbour, oh, you want to do some renovations on your back lawn? I'll go your harvest and whatever we find.
Which would be zero, probably. But anyway.
I think Jack has had one or two scotches tonight. He said it's a shame he never went to the USA and did DJ work there. I would have been a sex symbol. I've never been a sex symbol in my life, mate. I seriously doubt it's ever going to start now. I did play around with American radio for a while, and in the world of voiceovers, America is the pinnacle to get to, because every voiceover you do pays a residual. And that means that if they pull your ad out 12 months, 2 years, 10 years later and play it, you get paid again and again and again and again. So the voiceover guys in America make a lot of money. Our system here does not work like that, unfortunately. But I did manage to get a little bit of work in America because I didn't do a half bad American accent. So a friend of mine who was an American producer who lived in Florida, he and I hatched a plan where he would write up some promos for a rock and roll radio station in Chicago, it was, that he did a bit of work for on the side. And he would slip them to their program management people and see whether or not I might be considered as the new station voice for this station in Chicago. Anyway, we put all this thing together, and eventually I was accepted, which was great. Didn't pay a great deal of money, but there was a little bit of a feather in my cap in the industry, pulled over their eyes in Chicago. So we're doing this for about 4 years, I suppose, 3 or 4 years. You know, they'd send him the scripts, make them, and then send them back to them. And it was all going really well. And somehow the cat got out of the bag. and they found out that I was an Aussie. They thought that I was an Aussie living in America rather than living in Australia, but they found out that I was an Aussie and dumped me on the spot, because that's how parochial they are about giving work to Americans.
Yeah, well, that's changed.
Well, that has changed. Yeah, that has changed. So yeah, I wouldn't even know how to approach the American industry. There was a very great voiceover man, and everybody here would have heard him doing promos for movies and whatnot for years. His name was Don LaFontaine, and he has had a very deep voice, and yeah, just the quintessential American movie trailer voice. Before Don passed away, he and I became friends online, chatting, and he gave me a lot of advice about what I could do with my voice, and tried to give me some advice about breaking into America, to a point where he put me into a group of his friends who were the absolute pinnacle of voiceovers in America. And while all of them were very nice, none of them were encouraging me to come and join them. That's because that's competition, right? They're all very, go, yeah, you got a great voice, Carl. Yep, you should come over and do that. But it's competition for them. And why would you be inviting further competition into what is a very small market? So I was always going to lose those jobs, even though to my face they'd say, yeah, we'd love to have you over here, Carl, and come and do this. And yeah, oh yeah, we'd come and stay at our place. That'd be great. But the fact of the matter is, I would always be shot down because they would know I was an Australian doing an American accent, rather than hearing the accent, not being able to distinguish that it was, an accent put on by somebody else. And yeah, they felt like the Chicago radio station PD rang me and said, felt like that they'd had the wool pulled over their eyes. They
did. That
yeah.
was 100% correct.
Yeah. Now, of course, the internet makes the radio or the TV thing a lot easier to branch out internationally. I have deliberately not chased an American audience with what I do here with the Voice of Freedom, because I feel if I'm going to be speaking to the betterment of Australians, I need to be talking to Australians.
Yep.
I really don't have the knowledge base to speak to Americans or lecture them on their history. So while I respect what they do, I didn't feel I had much to offer to their side of the argument, and I knew or felt that they had very little, if you like, to offer to ours. So that's why you haven't seen a great deal of Americans on my show, and I don't appear, although I've been invited to many, I don't appear on any of them over there. I've also been very wary of becoming the interviewee. I'm not that person. If you want a story or you want to hear about a story, then come on a Friday night free for all and ask a question. I'll tell you all about it. But I'm not that kind of person.
Which is theoretically being interviewed, but we won't go down that path.
Well, it is theoretically being interviewed, but here I feel I'm sitting amongst friends talking, whereas being interviewed, it just puts my head in a different place for some reason. I feel I don't know, I just feel differently. And I don't know why anybody would want to interview me.
Well, major breakup there, my friend. Major breakup.
I said I just don't understand why anybody would want to interview me. So I'm always a bit puzzled when those requests come through. And I think I may have done 2 formal type interviews the whole time I've been doing this show. And that was because one of the ladies was a friend of the program, and the other one turned out to be. So, but I guess if somebody wants it, I'm happy to talk. That's the thing. I'm always happy to talk. Can't shut me up. But I don't go chasing it, and I don't chase an audience. I don't chase an American audience. And I suppose, Vince, you're going to tell everybody now and kick me in the teeth because I don't chase an Australian one real hard either. I should do a lot more promotion. I should do a lot more things, but I don't.
Well, that's something we might chat about a little bit tonight as well while we're on here. But right now, I think actually the Americans could do with a couple of Aussie voices coming over here and saying, "Wake up, you wits! Did you not see that in the last debate that it was so 3-on-1, and in fact that if we put a little sign, I was almost thinking of making one up. Fact checks 5 for Donald Trump. Fact checks 0 for her. Lies for Trump 1, maybe 1.5. Lies for her 10.
Yeah.
She just lied through her teeth. But anyway,
well, Trump's come out on Truth Social today and made this statement where he's saying he won the debate, but was criticised by the radical left lunatics because he looked angry and forceful. I've got to say he did look angry and forceful.
Yeah, and he was forceful.
But then he said, Why wouldn't I be angry? I love the USA and it's being destroyed by grossly incompetent leadership. Inflation, a terrible economy, horrible military decisions, no respect from around the world, and more than 20 million people, many from prisons and mental institutions, are pouring into our country and creating havoc, crime and destruction like never seen before. Am I supposed to be smiling like Comrade Kamala Harris with her fake 1.5-hour smile and long practiced facial expressions, despite all of the problems that she and Crooked Joe have caused? No, there's nothing to smile about. But there will be in the not too distant future when America makes the biggest comeback in history. November 5th, make America great again. God love him, he writes a good tweet, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he's topped that even more.
Oh, right.
So there's not going to be another debate. They've said no to that, right? And he has just made the promise. So I'm almost tempted to go to America, to be honest, right? He's just made the promise that anybody who works overtime will not be taxed on their overtime.
That's a big one.
That's a very huge. Big one. That is huge.
It's interesting that he's bringing up tax. Senator Rennick brought up tax the other night too. I'm not sure if it was in his policy speech regarding his independent status now going. I think he's going to start a party just between you, me, and the gatepost. In his policy speech the other night, he also brought up the taxation system and believes that nobody should be taxed anything up to $60,000 a year.
Well, that'd be nice.
Breaking that down at the by the time you've paid your 10 grand in tax and your 4 grand in this and your insurances for that, you work it out with about $34,000 a year. And on the metrics today, the inflation metrics of today's cost of living, $34,000 a year puts you nearly $6,000 below the poverty line.
Well, you don't want to know what both me and you are sitting on then. We're way below that, both of us.
Yeah, but we learn to live on the smell of an oily rag, or in my case, you just suck the fur out of it. But,
I was wondering how come all those rags look really, like nice and smooth. Now I know.
Okay. Yeah, those little fish lip marks on it.
Well, that's just part of the news that's been going on. We were talking a little bit earlier about texts for that person, and I think it is, but just to be on the safe side, text me again just to make sure. Thanks.
And Lily asked if I got an email from her yesterday regarding T-shirts.
Oh.
Yes, I'm looking at it right now. Thank you very much, Lily. I'll be talking to you after the show.
And probably forwarding that email to me. Thank you.
In fact, I will forward that email to you right now because my fat finger just deleted it. Right, so got it back, all sorted, no worries. Right, that's forwarded, and you'll hear from us, Lily, one of us, at least.
All right.
At least one of us.
Things that are happening around Australia. I sent you a very interesting little thing that I wrote to the government earlier this morning, Carl. Remember that?
I did. Now, we've opened and closed that document about the computer about 15 times since then. So
Yeah, we did.
that means
Yeah.
the Adobe thing is not going to be working as it once was.
It doesn't matter. You should be able to open it just by double clicking it. It will open Adobe.
Yes,
So-
I've just got to find it again to
We'll just find the
do
email.
the double clicking.
But anyway,
There we are. There we
So,
are. All right, let me share this now.
and you can read it because I ain't.
Yes, hang on, back to the right screen. Move that. Got all these things popping up. Share the screen. We want to do the Adobe thing. I think that's it.
That looks good.
That looks like it. Would you like to explain what this is, Vincenzo?
Okay, so when the misinformation, disinformation bill came out, they asked for submissions from the public. And of course, they've just started to debate that now currently in government.
No, there's no debate. They've just mentioned that it's coming.
Yeah, well,
There's
they've
no
also,
debate.
well, they say they're debating it and they've moved it to October 8th for the next part of it. So anyway, I thought to myself, I'm pretty sure I wrote something in that. And so I went, checked online, and this is what I wrote. So I sent it to Carl, and he said, you should put that up so you can discuss it tonight. So it's up. Carl will do the honor of reading it because, you know, for somebody who wrote it out in a hurry, I didn't think it came out too bad.
You've done very well. All right. Objection to censorship of information by classing it as misinformation. Summary. The introduction of any piece of legislation that in any way tries to restrict the freedom of ideas, thoughts in any format, institutes a totalitarian form of control over every area of life to human beings. We currently have laws that deal with certain areas of thought and actions that are deemed as illegal and against moral judgment of the people. But to have a department that is specifically designed to silence what it may perceive as misinformation, and that department is not controlled by a majority public view, is only trouble. That will be because it will be controlled by a few people pushing their own agenda, as proven in the last 3 years. It's not possible to list all the reasons that this bill should not be enacted, and the pure fact that it even exists raises serious concerns over the leadership of the people who proposed it. Now, do they have the right to propose it? The answer has to be yes. Do the majority of people have the right to say no and choose not to consent? The answer to this is also yes. Are the people who proposed this bill doing the right thing for their constituents? What they work for is definitely in contention. Ironically, this very bill is designed to stop people from raising that concern, as it could be classed as disinformation. History has so many examples of thoughts and ideas that were considered radical and crazy, and that over time have proved to be generally accepted truth. Things like the earth is round, gravity, medical advancement, and so on. Without the ability to propose an idea, you are restricting the ability of free thought. I ask this question: who gives you the power to tell Australian people what is right or wrong about information that may be dispersed? The answer is the very people that you're trying to censor by threats or fines and punishment. If you can't see the disastrous circular reference here, then you are not servicing the very Australian that put you in that position. Some references that go directly against the bill, and you've quoted some things there. What is the right freedom of opinion and expression? What is the right to freedom of opinion and expression? The right to freedom of opinion is the right to hold opinions without interference and cannot be subject to any exception or restriction. The right to freedom of expression extends to any medium, including written and oral communications, the media, public protest, broadcasting, artistic works, and commercial advertising. The right is not absolute. It carries with it special responsibilities and may be restricted on several grounds. For example, restrictions could relate to filtering access to certain internet sites, the urging of violence, or the classification of artistic material. Multiple court cases relating to this matter are listed. I could spend multiple days finding heaps of references of history and legislation, but to what avail if you can't see this as morally wrong when you should not be in the position then you are in. This would be the second summary, I gather. Generally, it should be understood that this legislation is a bad idea at its best and is totalitarian concept at its worst. And I personally, as a free person, do not consent to this piece of legislation, even if it's enacted. Pretty well written.
Not bad, I thought. I shocked myself when I reread it and I went, holy crap, did I write that?
Yeah.
So it was like, yeah, but it says the truth. And of course, this is what they're bringing in now. Now, there was 2,270 something submissions on that page, of which this is just but one. So it's a little less than what they expected. The ACMA were expecting 2,500. So it's
we got 26 million people, folks. 0.1%, less than 0.1% of the population is writing to complain about this.
Yep. Right.
That's just ridiculous.
People don't. We've got two things that are happening right now that are very interesting. One, we've got this being discussed, right, and we can discuss for ages about various parts and pieces that'll be in there that's coming. The second is the bill for limiting the ability for 14 years and younger to get onto social media and social media sites, which raises its own question. And I've got something here that actually says that the government is looking for requesting for tenders for age assurance technology.
Yeah.
What? Hang on. What? Pardon? How are you going to do that on my computer without my permission? Are you going to take a snapshot of whoever's sitting in front of the screen? How do you know who's going to be typing on that keyboard? How do you know that they're not 15 or 16 but look 12? How do you this is such a very slippery slope, and it should be up to the parents. Note that. Sorry, I'm getting a little hot-headed here. Should be up to the parents to determine whether their children go on social media sites and what social media sites they go on. Right? It's not the government's job to tell us how to educate and raise our children.
I would agree.
Right? So we have that.
We seem to be falling into that trap pretty solidly, though. Why? I mean, there's only a few of us, and by comparison to the rest of the nation, there's only a very few of us who are awake enough to try and do anything about it. There is something else that I think is worthy just to remember. I'm just going to try and bring this up now. Suck it in. The Shadow Communications Minister has also made a point regarding what the government's statement is on this, or the current status of this software rollout, if you like. And he said here that the government has claimed that it has started a trial of age verification technology. That is false. The government has not started a trial of age verification technology, despite announcing it on this year. Just today, the government has published on AusTender website a request for tenders for the Age Assurance Technology Trial 2024. The tender doesn't close until October 7. So you can't do anything until after October 7 at the earliest. And I would suspect, well, this guy says late October at the earliest. The government has consistently failed to understand the urgency and the need. And this is where obviously the Liberals fall back in line with, we still need to do this. They're just not doing it our way. The fact of the matter is, I think the guts of it is in the top of that particular letter. The government's telling you lies about the age verification policy now. What on earth makes you think they're going to do anything else but tell you lies about that going forward? Oops.
Yeah. Well, you got to take the other thing into account, Carl. Right? How is the best way that they can monitor who's going to be on the net?
Oh, yes,
All
very
right.
true.
The best way and the easiest way is that they make every person, when they sign on to their computer, use their voluntary digital ID. Right?
Yes.
You can't half see all these roads pointing together, right? And it's the same with the misinformation, disinformation bill. I'm going through the amendments at the moment. There's massive amount of pages, but one of the main thing it talks about with the misinformation, disinformation, and then again, who's ever going to govern it or whatever. But it talks about harm being the main cause for doing this. Okay. And here's the definition of harm and please excuse my reading. Harm means any of the following: hatred against a group of Australian society or the basis of an ethnicity, nationality, race, gender, sexual orientation, age, religion, or physical or mental disability. Okay, not so bad. Part B, disruption of a public order or society in Australia. So that literally just took out protests, organising a protest, because that's the disruption of the public order of society. All right. C, harm to the integrity of the Australian democratic process or of a Commonwealth state, territory, or local government institutions. So now we can't abuse them for doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Right. That's part C.
Yeah.
D, harm to the health of Australia. Pardon? You're telling us about that when you did what over the last 3 years, 4 years?
Wow.
And how many did you harm? Right? Not saying that you did. Sorry, I'm totally not saying that we did, because we might get misinformation, disinformation on that. Right?
I don't know. Would you like me to bring up the pictures of Victorian police firing on other Victorians?
I saw that.
Rubber
I saw
bullets.
that already the other day. Yeah, and then we've got, right, it's not finished. E, harm to the Australian environment. F, economic or financial harm to Australians, the Australian economy, or a sector of the Australian economy. So boycotting Big W is harm to Big W. Censored. See how broad those definitions are?
Yes.
This is an exceptionally slippery slope that we're going down. All right.
And ACMA are not the agency to be put in charge of policing this. They have shown previously that they are, well, at the end of the day, I think what we're talking about is all semantics, because I don't believe, I can't, my head does not allow me to believe that this is going to be allowed to go forward. Or maybe go forward for long. I can put up with something if I know it's going to end in a short period of time. Like the whole spicy cough thing, getting a stick shoved up your nose or getting a jab in your arm. I knew that was going to end. I knew I could see that out. And that pressure. Nothing they could do to coerce me, short of possibly if Laura had have gone into hospital and I couldn't have been able to get in to see her, that would be, and I still wouldn't have done it in that circumstance. I would have made the hospital pay dearly for it. They would have needed teams of security every time I came to go and see my daughter. But I still wouldn't have gone and got the jab, even at that level of coercion.
Yes.
So, because it's just so dead against it for people like us.
It does get deeper into this and who can and who can't, and more definitions of misinformation and disinformation as it goes. But it seems like any service that interacts like what we're doing right now, this is called an interactive service because we're talking to each other and we have the guys in the chats making their comments in bits and pieces. That's classed as interaction, right?
Yep.
Can come under this bill. If we were two people talking privately to ourselves with no interaction to anyone else, no. If we were sending a SMS or an MMS, no, they can't get access to those. That's written into the bill, right? But if we have a chat room, yes, they can have access to that because it's more than one person. It's not SMS and it's not MMS, right? So it goes in quite a way. It's actually set up, if you read it carefully enough, it's set up easy enough to take every freedom broadcasting publisher, network person, any news-related freedom journalists off air. It's actually written in there. They will recognize recognized media or news outlets that follow the broadcasting code of conduct, etc., and so on and so forth. But any freedom journalist won't be recognized at all. Right, so that's another part. And I said I'm only halfway through this thing, and I'm already.
To be honest, none of us are recognised now, anyway. I mean, Avi might have some sort of press passy kind of qualification that he got from somewhere, but
he does.
Press passes these days are issued per event. You don't get one just because you're a part of the press. You've basically got to beg your way in for a press pass to get into an event. You can say I am a citizen journalist, but we have, as citizen journalists, we do not have the protections that American journalists have under their constitution. So,
sure, they've got it either.
I'm not even sure they do. No, but they at least have a right to free speech. We don't.
Yeah.
Nowhere in Australian law is it enshrined that. And in part, that's why Ricardo is right when he refers to the US Constitution as one of the most well thought out and most powerful documents ever constructed.
At least
because they thought of all of these.
4.
Yeah. So that is a document that is well worth consideration. When, as parochial and as patriotic as I'm sure everybody watching tonight is, J1's in the room. Hey, haven't seen you in a while. As parochial and as patriotic as everybody is, we are not protected in the same ways that the media that we consume every day shows us. Others are protected. We watch and consume American content every day. If you are watching those citizen auditors, sovereignty auditors who are standing out on the street filming people, all that kind of stuff, none of those laws apply to Australians.
Well, not quite.
None of them. No law that you see.
Quite. You can't use that law, but there is a high court case law here in Australia. If the police ask you to identify yourself, you can identify yourself, you specify your name, and at that point, am I under investigation? No, you can walk away. And that's actually a high court legislated law here in Australia. And you can run away theoretically, but as long as you're not under investigation, you can leave.
But you
don't have to show identification, you just have to say who you are.
Yep.
Just saying. But a lot of people don't know that law exists because it's not out there. There's always little tidbits that you can pull up.
If a police officer walks up to you and wants you to, does that circumstance work as you just described it? G'day, I'm Vince Panel. Well, where's your license, Vince Panel? Well, Do you suspect me of any crime? No, I just want to know who you are. Well, I've told you I'm Vince Pannell. Am I
Yep,
arrested?
and that's
No.
all
All
you
right.
have
Well,
to
I'm going then.
produce. Yeah, because unless you're physically driving a car, then you don't have to produce your license.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but that's just, and that's not legal advice. Please take that the right way. But you don't have to. You can just say, yeah, this is my name. Right, you've identified yourself. Now, am I suspected or am I needed as a witness? Am I under investigation? No, thanks. See ya. Bye.
Yep. Enjoy your day.
Yep. Right. So it's the same as, at least over here in South Australia, you get arrested. They don't like to tell you that you have the right to have somebody come to the station and sit with you while you're being processed. But that's also in the law as well. So
speaking of South Australia, I'm wondering where the picture's gone. This has popped up tonight on what?
my favourite fella.
Yeah. Now, that might be just a bit hard for people to.
Grant Stevens,
read.
everybody. Welcome to the Commissioner of South Australia, the one who enforced the mandates illegally. So I believe, anyway, here in South Australia. Where
So the box down the bottom of that says Commissioner Grant Stevens is an undercover ASIS agent whom is covertly running his satanic cult known pedophile selling and killing ring of children through the Department of Children's Services to rape, sacrifice, kill, and program with satanic ritual abuse. The Commissioner is also running the Hells Angels bikies, selling ice and killing anyone who gets in the way, such as Steve Williams. The reckoning has arrived. Who is Steve Williams? Are you familiar? Is that a local murder case that's gone bad?
Not that I'm familiar with, but I'm hoping that person has the evidence to back that up.
Yes, there's a lot of allegations being thrown around there, and I don't see a signature or a way to contact the author to ask them to back any of that up. I'll tell you one thing, mentioning the Hells Angels is a
They
two-headed
haven't been around in
coin.
Adelaide for a while, I don't think.
Well,
I could be wrong.
With the greatest of respect to the Hells Angels, it's my understanding that they're lesser in number today than at any other time in Australia's history. And the reason for that is that the core Hells Angel group has been taken over by a certain ethnicity, and a lot of what you might call the OG Hells Angels are not on board with the way that the club's going.
Yep. He's having some international issues with the beam bouncing around the internet and going to the other side.
For all this to try and catch up. It's been a long time since I've been involved, even in the periphery of bike clubs and all that sort of stuff. But the Hells Angels were always thin on the ground, but held great presence everywhere.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean.
Yeah. That's,
and you don't mention their affiliations. So, if the commissioner is also running the Hells Angels Bike Club, well, then not only are the Hells Angels now looking for the author of this document or anybody who's propagating it and trying to say that it's real, but every other club with affiliations to the Hells Angels will also be looking for this person. Think Mongols. Well, I don't know that the Bandidos or the Comancheros are too friendly with their angels these days. The coffin
I hear
seekers.
there's some good caves down at Port MacDonald. If you want to go hiding, mate, there's a lot of caves down that way.
Yeah, I'd be burying myself somewhere very, very, very deep, because if you don't bury yourself, trust me, others are going to bury you. That is a
My guy Steve was going
even
to
if
expose the
even if it
pedophile.
even if it is mis and disinformation, it is not dangerous to anybody except the author.
Yeah, well,
So-
while I was, the woman's got a comment there.
Oh, I'll have to flick back to the comments.
Okay, so Steve was a biker that went missing, right?
Right,
And he
okay.
was going to expose the pedophile ring in South Australia. So maybe there's a bit of a story there that we should follow up somewhere along the line. So very interesting.
All right. A little bit more of investigations there.
Yep.
And
And
good on you, Stu. The Nike bikies took over. I knew there was a saying for them, and I couldn't fucking remember it. Yeah, that's it. The Nike bikies have taken over. You're 100% right. None of these old schools anymore, mate. The OGs are gone, aren't they, brother?
Yeah.
That's all right. They sit quietly beside rivers and make plans.
Well,
or at least some of the ones I know.
I've just got to clarify one thing about Commissioner Grant Stevens.
Yeah.
In all fairness, he did keep South Australia out of lockdowns for a long period of time before he finally submitted. I think he was pressured into it eventually. But so I'll give him that, because I know that the Premier said do this and he said no. Right.
Right.
But
okay.
eventually he did secede and did it, and then ordered the mandate, which was obviously where a lot of people lost their jobs. So that's why I personally don't like him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so once again, that slippery slope. Right? Do it once, do it more than once, and the more that people turn around and say no, the more damage we are doing to their economy, the better off that we are at actually making them sit back and listen.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
I don't know how we need to combat this new one coming through, but it needs to be combated. I mean, we've had the submissions in. They're now discussing it. The next point, as much as I hate to say it, get in touch with your local minister, federal minister, and visit him, or write him an email, or not write him an email. It's pretty pointless from what I hear. Write him an official letter with a wanted reply. Right. Yeah. And just put it quite clearly, we don't agree. We don't consent. And your job as my representative is to go in there and say no.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
If you want your job next year, say no. So,
yeah.
Right. Because there's nothing worse than a whole heap of us going around whispering to each other because they can't censor that yet.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. Are you going to post your submission up on the VOFHQ website? People might like to use it as a thought starter, if you like, or possibly.
Yeah, I'm happy to put it up there. I was rather shocked at how well I wrote that, considering I'm not a typist. But anyway, but that was the thoughts that come out. It shows you where I stand morally. Anyway, that's what it does show. Right.
I'm glad you talked over me and you didn't hear my comment.
Oh, what was it? Come on, you've said it now. You've got to say it again.
I just said I'm surprised you wrote it that well too. That's all.
Oh, thank you.
Very good. So, do you remember the pride of the police force that I showed in? I'm not sure if it was last night's show or the show before. This bloke.
Fuck you. Good lad. Yeah, go for it. Fuck it. Yeah.
So he's one of the imported coppers that the country is getting. Turns out he must be having a very bad week, because here he is knocking a motorcyclist clean off the bike there today too. So I'm not.
Are you sure it's the same guy?
Well, he's driving like an Indian, so I'm guessing there's, if it's not him, it'll be his cousin. So yeah. Anyway,
Well, in all fairness, he should have been pulled aside and reprimanded for what he actually said.
Fuck you. Good lad.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. So
on the
caught
spot,
red-handed, on the spot, in tape, and his
that
sergeant was
inspector
there.
that, yep, that guy that was with him, either a sergeant or an inspector that was with him, should have ripped his nuts through his nostrils in front of that bloke there and then. But unfortunately, we're stuck with them, and God help them if they ever pull me over. It's going to be a very bad day for us all, because I will have
Ghosts
very
just
little.
walked past my head.
Oh, you got more ghosts. Yeah, I got very little tolerance. Very
for
little
ghosts?
tolerance. No, for
Or for police officers.
well, yeah.
Fuck you. Good lad.
Yeah, I've seen. Yeah, just an Uber driver wearing a different uniform, as far as I'm concerned, and I've had plenty of them to tell me to get fucked as well. So, all good. We know how to deal with them. They're actually scared of us, so you can see that this fella is actually intimidated, and I understand most Indians are intimidated by Australians. We've been known to beat them at cricket, and we have a much broader, funnier, and sharper sense of humour, and we've been known to beat them at cricket
Twice.
So I understand.
Fuck you. Good lad.
How they play that game. So
I'd like to know who the person was on the other end, because it was a good lad. It had an accent to it. Did you pick it?
no. Oh yeah, he's Scottish or something, or English.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah. But obviously
Yeah.
an Australian. So yeah.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah, he's clearly an English Australian living in Western Australia. I would say, where they've just picked up a brand new one.
Fuck you. Good lad.
All right.
Yeah, he was in trouble with all that swearing coming from the police officer. We might get taken down for misinformation, disinformation, or violence or harm.
Go ahead. I'm not getting into. I should not. I'm sorry I posted that. I shouldn't laugh at that. That's probably running a little close to the line. But that's very funny. All right, folks. I think that I've had enough for today. I really am looking forward to the day to come to a grinding end today.
Okay. Well, a little bit of discussion about wherefore for part of this censorship thing that came up before, which I said we discuss a little bit later, was the fact that we have the Freedom Broadcasting Network, which is our dedicated TV streaming news channel, etc., and so on, which actually gives a home for these independent reporters to come and live, because we will be sort of like a registered channel, because we are an incorporated company. So
yeah,
just something to raise that people need to be aware of. You know, if you're looking like you're going to get hammered out, we've got a home for you, and maybe it's time to start getting that rolling. The second part was the discussion about morning shows, radio show, and evening shows. So I don't know. I haven't discussed this with you, but would you be happy to have a separate presenter that might come on and do the occasional evening show? And
I hadn't heard that as a.
More the point, would the
that as a
guys
suggestion.
accept it? You just did. Because I'm being cheeky and I'm doing it live.
Yeah, I can say no to that, but we'll talk
Great
about
pleasure.
it. I actually have a scientific reason for it, but I understand where you're going with it, and I like the concept of where you're going. So yes, we can figure that out.
So further discussion to be had. But
yes,
guys, if you want, please looking, drop it in the chat, see what your comments are. We'd love to hear what you're going to say about something like that as part of it. Also, once again, please go and look for our wonderful website, FBN-online on the YouTube channels, and like and subscribe to that one along with VOF HQ.
DM's busted
more
you.
regular segment. Yeah, that's pretty much right, DM. You got that. Well, I'm just thinking that if he's going to be in the morning, and I know he falls asleep in the afternoon because I keep ringing him. So, if he's not there one night, maybe I can supplement or something. But anyway, or we can find somebody who's far better than I am. But
somebody
anyway,
can read.
Yeah, well, I didn't say I can gas bag. I don't have to read very often, but thank you very much, Carl.
Your brother.
And then again, right, getting back to that, we're always happy to receive a donation or become a member for as little as $1.25 a week. We appreciate that if you can do that. For the people who have ordered hoodies, I'm still waiting on a payment from one, but they arrived today. So they will be posted on Monday.
Awesome,
all right, for those people that's come through. And Scotty T, yes, I got yours. Thank you.
Got mine on tonight.
Yeah,
it's same
here.
dirty, actually.
This one here is the gunmetal grey.
Okay. And is that the zip up one?
Yep.
Oh, there you go.
All right. I'll show you my boot.
I don't have the zip up one. Yeah, that's enough.
Also, if people don't wish to use a credit card to donate and they are involved in crypto, we have some crypto wallet addresses on our website where you can donate via crypto. Gratefully received and appreciated. So you'll find that in the same place as the donation. Look down the bottom of the page and you'll find crypto addresses there.
Absolutely.
I think I've covered about all of it now. Right.
All right.
All complaints and insults, please send to Carl at vofhq.com.
Yes. Wild Aussie Woman, I am a bit shattered tonight, but I'm shattered because it's just been a very sad day with the loss of Cass's dog, Achilles. We had to bury him this afternoon. We put him down this afternoon, and it was just it's just been an emotionally draining day, can I say? So I guess yes, that's where I'm at tonight. And you are 100% right. It's good night from me, and it's good night from him. I think that was the two Ronnie's exit, wasn't it?
Yep, that's it.
All right. So it's good night from him.
Love you. Be good, yeah, and it's good night from me. So we got it both ways.
Listen. You are known for one signature move, Vince, and you've forgotten it. Thank you. See, we'll teach you marketing yet, folks. All right. Have yourselves a lovely night, folks. There is every chance I'll talk to you over the weekend. Whether it's in this format or just off the phone, we'll just see how it goes. Thank you to everybody who's reached out. Those of you who saw the Facebook post this afternoon and passed on your condolences for the loss of Achilles. I'll make sure Cass sees those on my Facebook page, so she'll be very grateful for those as well. And thank you for everybody who's reached out for me with it too. I'm got to be honest, I'm a bit surprised that it's affected me the way that it has, but I love animals, and I've shed more tears for this animal in particular than I have for many people close in my life. And I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know why that would be the case. However, I don't mind crying for good things, and Achilles was certainly a very good thing. So it's the first time I've probably had to experience a loss of a dog that was close to me. And if I'm taking this one this way, God knows what I'm going to be like when Chili goes. You'll remember Chili, of course. She hangs around with my daughter Laura these days, and I don't get to see her too much. But she did have a wonderful day at the beach yesterday, and I think I have a little picture here that will just show you how she is living her best life currently at the moment. And bearing in mind, this is a dog that doesn't like the water at the beach. Yesterday, she went swimming as near as Laura and I can fathom for the first time in the ocean, like actually feet off the floor swimming, and was loving it. So it's all good. Our fur babies, they really are the most amazing things for our souls and for our lives. And if you have one in yours, keep them close and give them a kiss from me. If you happen to see all the dickheads out on the roads, well, you can give them something else. Have a good night.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!